Happy Tuesday, everyone. This week we are painting Nocturnes, and tonight I'm painting in my hometown. I'm going to be painting Cedar Lake from the south side looking north. So let's see how it goes. Let's paint. All right, so tonight I am in my hometown, the town I grew up in. I'm in Cedar Lake, and I decided that I was going to go down to the south side of Cedar Lake with my brother, Ben, my older brother, Ben. I have two older brothers, one Dominic, he's the oldest, and then Ben is just below him in age, and then I'm 5 years younger than Ben, so Ben's 5 years older than me. And then I have a younger brother named Jared, who is 10 and a half years younger than me, all from the same parents, a family of all boys. My mom is a saint, to say the least, putting up with four boys. She is amazing. And so, anyways, I'm on the south side of Cedar Lake. My brother Ben just hung out, read a book, and we just chilled. And it was really nice. And we probably got there around 9:30 or so. And so there was no light in the sky anymore. It was fully dark at this point. It was a pretty calm night. There was no wind. There were only a few boats out on the lake. And I had this nice clear view all the way to the north side of the lake. So Cedar Lake is actually, I think, a really beautiful lake. It's just south of Lake Michigan. It's in Lake County, that most northwest county of Indiana. And I believe it was formed by a glacier, so it's a natural lake. It's just shy of 800 acres. I think it's like 780 something acres of total area of the lake. So it's a pretty big lake. It's a big enough lake that a lot of boats can be on it simultaneously. And it's a really popular lake for just doing simple lake sports. When I was growing up, people loved going out and tubing on the lake. And in recent years, it seems like more people are doing things like wakeboarding on the lake. Going out on wave runners is really popular on the lake. It was still when I was a kid, but I think it's gotten even more popular on this lake. And it's probably something to do with it being large enough that you feel like you can really go for a while, but it's not so big that you get any waves that make riding a wave runner very difficult. So you get a lot of that, and it's just a really beautiful lake. I really loved growing up on this lake. It just has a really peaceful atmosphere. Has a lot of activity on it still, but it still has this kind of peaceful vibe to it. There's just a lot of nice little things about growing up in a town that has a lake that has a lot of activity. It's really popular with people from Chicago coming down for the day and just going into, say, like La Tulips Harbor. Well, it's not La Tulips Harbor anymore. Going into Pinecrest Marina or any of the marinas on the lake, dropping their boat in, cruising around on the lake for the day, and then going home. And it's nice and convenient for that. So it definitely gets a lot of activity in the summertime. Like, I grew up just down the street from Pinecrest, and on a given summer day, I feel like hundreds of vehicles would pass in front of my parents' house with a boat, carrying a boat trailer. So lots of activity on the lake, and that was always fun. And then you get these nice little shops around the lake too. Like, there's this awesome ice cream little place on the south side of the lake called Tasty Top. And it's gone through multiple owners, but the current owners are doing a fantastic job. Tasty Top has amazing soft serve ice cream. And that's kind of a weird thing to say is amazing. Like, soft serve ice cream is kind of run of the mill. But whatever they have in their ice cream, it's really good. So if you're ever in Northwest Indiana and you happen to find yourself in Cedar Lake, you should hit up Tasty Top. Really awesome ice cream. Other things that I really loved about growing up in Cedar Lake was that we lived across the street from the longest pier on the lake. I'm not sure if it's still the longest pier, but when I was a kid, it was the longest pier, and we would walk out there at night. We probably didn't have permission to go out there, but we would just go out on this pier. It was owned by the apartments that were on the other side of the street. And they had this super long pier, and on the end of it it got larger, it opened up and it had benches on the pier and a flagpole. And so it was just like a teenager's ideal hangout spot. I was in bands growing up, and we would go play shows all over the place, and then we would get back home really late. And you're so wired from playing that you're not tired, so you'd be like, oh, let's go walk out on the pier. And then you would hang out on the pier and just like look at the stars and just have all these sort of conversations that you have when you're a teenager, talking about life and your future and how awesome the show was that you just were at and whatever it is. Like, it was just the ideal setting for this sort of coming of age time in my life. That when I think about Cedar Lake, I think about that pier, I think about going out on the lake at night, and it still has that magic for me. It's like one of those places that is always going to be dear to me and always have a piece of my heart because it's where I grew up, and it's where I went through all of my teenage years and my young adult years, and it has this kind of magic about it for me. Between my brothers and friends growing up, we just had so many awesome times on the lake. Even recently, like the last few years, my brother Ben, who's hanging out with me tonight while I'm doing this painting, he got into a thing called supping, where it's like those really long boards that you stand up on and you have a single paddle and you just stand and paddleboard around the lake, but you do it while balancing standing up. And we've gone out on the lake a few times, like at midnight, and just the lake is like glass. All of the boats that were out on the lake at night have gone in, and there is like no one on the lake. And it's just such a cool, surreal thing to be out on a big lake like that in the middle of the night, and you just look up and all that is above you is the stars and the sky. It's just fantastic. So we've been doing that every now and then. He told me we're going to do it again this week coming up, so hopefully we get a chance to go out there and go supping on the lake. I don't even know if that's the right term. Supping? Paddleboarding? I don't even know. I don't think it's called paddleboarding. Maybe it is called paddleboarding. Whatever it is, going supping, paddleboarding. It's great, and it's especially awesome to do in the middle of the night when you have the whole lake to yourself. Another thing that I loved doing, a few bandmates of mine, we would go out in the middle of the night with a huge bucket of golf balls, and we would just set up on the end of a pier and just hit a bunch of golf balls into the lake. And we would do this when there weren't boats out on the lake, so I mean, there could have been like somebody on a paddleboard or like a kayak or canoe out there without a light, but we weren't hitting the balls like if there were pontoon boats out on the lake or anything. But that was awesome, just to go out there and to like burn some teenage energy by just hitting a bunch of golf balls out into the lake in the middle of the night. That was awesome. So lots of good memories of Cedar Lake and growing up here, and it's really special for me every time I come back just to spend time there and to go out onto the lake when I get a chance. So this was one of those nights. Got to go out there with my older brother Ben, and we just chilled, and I was painting, he was reading. We brought our pipes out there, so I actually really enjoy smoking a tobacco pipe every now and then. And I gotta say that I just totally felt like I was almost role-playing as an artist. Like, I'm smoking a pipe, holding the pipe in one hand and paintbrush in the other hand, painting, and then my brother's holding a pipe in one hand and a book in another hand, and it just felt like, who are we and what century are we from? But it felt right, and it felt really satisfying, actually, so I'm okay with that. It was genuine, and it was really pleasant, and what a nice night. It was just perfect. Perfect setting to be out there making a painting in the middle of the night, being with my brother, and just chilling. It was great. So let's talk about the painting a little bit. The composition is really set up to give as much space to the sky as possible. So I really pulled the horizon line down towards that bottom quarter of the composition, and almost all of the activity of the landscape is happening down there. And then I left open the sky. I would say it was probably a conscious decision to make the sky consume most of the space of the painting. For me, whenever I go back to the Midwest and I'm in the Midwest, one of the first things that makes me feel like I am in the Midwest or that I'm back home is the big sky out here. Like, as soon as you even land in a plane in like O'Hare and you get out of the plane and you look outside, the first thing that I always notice is, wow, I can see all of the sky. And that's because it's super flat out here. There aren't very many hills, and the hills that are here are so small and nothing like they are on like the East Coast or the West Coast or the central part of the country. So as soon as you get in the car and you start driving anywhere, you can just see really far. You can see like a few miles ahead of you easily. And especially like late in the summer when all the crops have been harvested, you can see really far all over. Like when you're driving or when you're out at night, you can see all of the sky. And when it's a new moon, you can see tons of stars. It's just a very unique feeling that doesn't happen in the East Coast, like around Baltimore. I just never get this feeling. Baltimore is not like mountainous or anything, but it is really hilly. There's hills all over the place, and it's really hard to get anywhere where you can see very far. And the only places that I've noticed that happen are when you're near a body of water. That's about the only time that I've noticed that you can see really far in Baltimore or in the surrounding area. Otherwise, it's like you're up on the top of a hill and you can look down into like a valley area. But other than that, it's really hard to see a far distance. But in the Midwest and around Chicagoland area or Northwest Indiana, where I'm at right now, it's super easy. You always can see really far, and the sky always looks huge. So that big sky effect is a real thing, and it's super intense, and I love it. I love that feeling of being under a big sky. So you might also notice that in this painting, I was holding up my palette knife and really carefully trying to match the color of paint to the color of the sky behind the painting and get those gradient steps in the painting as color accurate as I could under the light that I'm using. And really the only light in the sky tonight is the ambient light from the light pollution, all of the houses that have lights on, yard lights and whatnot. It's casting this kind of glow from the horizon up. And that's what's illuminating the sky and creating that sort of dirty, violet-y colored light to the bottom of the horizon. So as you move up in the composition, the sky gets darker, the blue gets more intense and more inky looking. And tonight's sky wasn't particularly blue. That blue is actually knocked down quite a bit. I really had to pull the mixture back and desaturate it a little bit on the palette before I put it up on the painting. But it does get really dark, and that gradient effect going up was really strong. The other feature of this painting that was fun was just working on those little highlights. So along the north side of the lake, I think that all of those lights are from a marina up there, and those lights, I don't think they ever go off. I think they're always left on at night. And you get this nice little strip of like 20 lights in a row. And then all the other lights that were popping up on the horizon line were typically just lights that are on houses or different things. And some of them are orange, and some of them are a really cool blue. And it was just fun to pick up on all those different lights along the horizon line and try to capture the little bit of reflection that was happening off of the surface of the water with those lights off into the distance. So that was today's painting, or tonight's painting, you could say. And I had a blast painting it. I had an awesome time hanging out there with my brother. The lake was super peaceful. The sky was clear and calm. And it was really nice to be out there painting at night. I highly recommend, if you've never done nocturnes before, if you're a painter and you've never gone out and painted at night, it's a really special experience. So I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome day, an awesome night. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.